Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, Hotel Nightmare. Guest that goes crazy and behaves rudely gets into the DNR. The second story, Karma Strikes Back. The bike battle with an entitled mother. The third story, Surviving the Worst Workplace, Unmasking the Shady Corporate Shenanigans. The first story is Scrambled Egg with a Side of Ambien, please. I've worked at a well-known hotel franchise. Insert large Q for a little under a year. So far, upper management has been decent to me, give or take a few slip-ups here and there, and most of my issues fall into entitled or crazy and rude guests. I've got a good few stories that I can recall, but I'm only going to be focusing on one in particular that happened last week. We'd had a problem guest that had been plaguing the front desk for 3 days at a time. At first, she was harmless, a tad ditzy, but not a danger to herself or anyone else. But everything changed after night had fallen. And like out of a horror movie, the pleasant 30-something-year-old woman went from sweet and clumsy to a nightmare on Elm Street. It turned out the woman repeatedly abused her prescription medications meant for sleep, then stayed up into the wee hours of the morning, causing her to experience violent mood swings at the drop of a dime. I was tasked with a 16-hour shift that ranged from 3 in the afternoon to 7 a.m. the next day, so I got to witness the shift in all of its glory. It started around 7 p.m., making advances at guests who were too busy checking in to acknowledge her, and I mean full-blown, come-to-my-room suggestions. That lasted for about an hour as the last of the reservations arrived. I'd warned her twice at that point to leave the front desk area unless she needed my help with something. And away she went, leaving until 10 p.m., where she started her shenanigans once more. I'd received complaints that there was a guest on the ground floor of the motel being very provocative. Expecting to find a drunk woman, I left to check it out, only to find nothing until I walked by our lovely lady's room. Window curtains wide open, bedroom lights on, TV blaring at an ungodly level of noise, there she was in nothing but her undergarments, top half exposed to the world. For the love of God, the guest next door had children, and she didn't even have the decency to shut her curtains. The conversation I had with her went well enough, but could see that I was obviously getting on her nerves. She finally conceded and closed the curtains, and I returned to my post. 1 a.m., the breaking point. I'm lazing about, watching for stragglers and walk-ins, when I receive a call from the woman's room. Front desk, this is OP. Yeah, I'm hungry. I want scrambled eggs and waffles. Ma'am, we do not offer catering, and even if we did, it's 1 in the morning. I'm paying money to stay here, so you can make an exception. No, I really can't. Breakfast items are off limits until the designated breakfast hours. She moved away from the phone at this point, so a good portion of her words are muffled, though I could catch some expletives here and there. I'm sorry, ma'am, could you repeat that? I said I'll get it my D self. I'll be up there in a few minutes. Click. I was at wit's end with her. She arrived at the front desk after 15 minutes, and at that point I was helping a guest try and check in. She didn't wait. She didn't try and move him out of the way. She just walked around the front desk and attempted to open the door to the back office where the breakfast kitchen was. I let her jostle the door all she wanted, because it was locked tight. After a few moments of futile efforts, she turns her attention to the guest trying to get a room, commenting on everything I said, insulting it, mocking me, commenting on the audacity that I, the big bad night auditor, wouldn't let her, the poor and starving woman, raid our breakfast kitchen because she had the munchies. The poor guy was just trying to get a place to stay, but she managed to frighten him away. At this point, I'd lost my friendly disposition and began the eviction procedure, telling her that she had 2 minutes to go back to her room, or I'd be calling the police. This must have been the final straw for her. As well, because the next thing that came out of her mouth was a very long line of cursing, shrieking, and threats on my well-being, and aggressively racist insults, not towards me, but to our management for hiring a sick freak like me. It's common knowledge in my town that most, if not all, hotels here are run by a single Indian family. Sweet people. Now, of course, when someone threatened, their normal reaction is to get angry. But I find this absolutely hilarious, so I start laughing. Apparently, my laughter confused her so much that she gave in. Or gave up because she thought I was crazier. She ended up leaving to her room and likely off to bed. I put her name and info into our DNR, do not rent, and went about the rest of my night in relative silence. Morning came and who shows up at 6:30 on the dot? Crazy lady, but her demeanor has changed once more. Sweet as pie, doting on me to other guests as I dished out breakfast. I reported to my boss on the matter and let her watch the camera feed. She deemed that I was not in the wrong, and she'd be contacting other hotels to warn them of her actions. I guess this complies with regular revenge. Pro-revenge maybe? Not sure. Well, here we go, another story of how some people can be absolutely insufferable and disrespectful to hotel staff. This woman seems to have taken sleep medication and turned from a harmless guest into a nightmare. The outright propositions, provocative behavior, and disrespectful treatment of other guests is unbelievable. The hotel staff was facing real trouble. But you seem to have pleased her with your reaction, a laugh that dumbfounded her enough to make her leave. She was eventually removed from the guest list and other hotels will be warned about her behavior. I believe you did the right thing. Unacceptable behavior from guests should never be tolerated, and your actions were absolutely in accordance with the rules and the law. I hope your job will be more relaxed and enjoyable in the future, and you will not encounter any more of these crazy guests. And yeah, given that she's now banned from every hotel in the city, the answer to your question is definitely pro-revenge. The second story is, EM wants old lady to carry an unassembled bike up some stairs. Karma was our friend. I used to work at the warehouse in my town. For those not from NZ, think Walmart, but the only foods sold inside are all packaged and very basic. Most of my shifts were at the customer service kiosk where I dealt with everything from complaints, thefts, broken stuff getting marked down, trailer rental, bike assembly orders, etc. For this particular shift, I was asked to cover a coworker who's almost about to retire for their 30-minute break at the self-checkout. I always agree because it's right across from the kiosk and I can see everything. If a customer needed help, I'd be at the kiosk in 30 seconds. Everything was going okay until EM came with her son. Everything about her screamed Karen, haircut, sunglasses indoors, the chunky jewelry, and too tight clothes. She was nice at first. EM: Hi there, love. Can you tell me if it's possible to put that bike on lay-by? Pointing at the displayed box. Me: Of course, ma'am. As long as it can be carried safely up the stairs into the lay-by room, we can put it on lay-by for you. She nodded and took off. My coworker, let's call her CC, came back and went back to my corner, carrying on with gathering all the items for online orders. It was around Christmas, so FML because there was a lot. When I finished grabbing everything, I headed back to see that there was a commotion. I just went into my box and started doing the orders when the lady I covered for came up to me. CC: OP, what did you tell that lady about the bike? Me: I told the lay-by rule. What's up? CC: She wants to put an adult bike on lay-by and I can't take it up the stairs. Me: What? Let me see. I closed the kiosk and went with her to check. This lady has indeed picked another bike, at least 3 times bigger than the one on display. She smiled at me. EM: Love, didn't you tell me that I could put bikes on lay-by? Me: Only if they can be carried up by the person who scans it for you. That's not the one you pointed at when you asked me. EM: Who cares? It's a bike. You said yes for the bikes. Now she tells me I can't. Which is it? EM: It can't be put on lay-by if it was the one on display. I'm sorry, but this bike cannot go on lay-by. It's too big. Her face changes color and her inner demon is peeping. EM: Well, my son doesn't want that bike. He wants this one. And you said we could put it on lay-by. Pointing to her child that's half the size of the box. Me: Ma'am, once again, only boxes that can be taken up a flight of stairs safely can go on lay-by. That bike will need 2 people and is a hazard to take up the stairs. We go on in this weird conversation until she tells the kid that I've ruined his birthday present and then she walks out the door. I think nothing of it and ask the guy who does restocking if he could take it back to its place. 15 minutes later, the manager calls me and CC up. M: I got a complaint that you two misled a customer and she's demanded to put a bike on lay-by. After we explained everything, he looked worried. M: Well, she's in the shop and she's threatening to call the higher-ups. Me: Well, that doesn't change the facts, sir. I can take it up the stairs, but whoever might be on shift when it comes time to collect might not be able to bring it down. M: Well, my hands are tied. Just give her the lay-by. We go back down and there she is minus the kid with a smug smile. EM: Isn't that a shame? Did you get told off? CC looked like she wanted to spank the evil out of EM, and that was enough to put a smile on my face to continue with the sale. She looked me up and down before speaking. EM: I don't know why you made a big fuss. You're a big girl, so you can take it up the stairs. I'm indeed a big girl, 6'2", and I weighed 120 kilograms / 264 pounds. But I was tired of explaining to her, so I just tried to finish the sale. When it came time to make a deposit, her card declined. 3 times on 3 different cards. Her face was so red and she walked out screaming about how we scammed her and how our IFT terminal were wonky, etc., blah, blah, blah. Security had to walk her out and put a 1-year ban on her. It's been said that every time she looks at our store, her eyes flow red and steam comes out of her ears. This story is like one of those when Karen decides she can break the rules and get her own. But this time, karma played in our favor. This lady, EM, clearly approached you with the intention of peeving off both you and your coworker. At first, she tried to talk you into putting a rather cumbersome bike on the lay-by, ignoring the rules you explained to her. But it seems Karen couldn't just walk away and decided to call higher-ups to complain. And here's where the fun part starts. After all her threats and yelling, it turns out that her car is rejected not once, not twice, but 3 times. And even on 3 different cards. It must have been very satisfying to see her face turn so red it could rival the flames by the Christmas lights. You were probably even lucky that she left screaming and cursing and the store managed to put a ban on her for a year. I guess this story taught her a real lesson about not ignoring the rules and expecting to always get what you want. Karma certainly played a part, and that deserves a satisfied smile. The third story is the SH employer I've ever had. The company was bleeding money because the CFO was stealing money and fixing the books, making it look like our branch was constantly underperforming. The owner, a super paranoid F-wit, decided with no evidence it was our accountant and fired her on the spot, then hired someone else for half the pay. Our building manager quit out of protest, knowing full well things will go to SH without the original accountant. In an effort for us to stop bleeding money, the new building manager's first new policy was to stop processing refunds. The building manager always processed them, and then had to get individualized permission from the owner for each one. The kicker? Our main draw was our lifetime, no questions asked warranty and refund, where if you weren't satisfied you could get warranty work done no matter what, or opt for a full refund. So the game plan was if someone wanted a refund, the sales folks were told to tell the customers, sure, we do have a backup, it'll take about 6 weeks, and then just pray the customer forgets about the refund in the next 6 weeks. As you can imagine, this ruffled some feathers. So out of protest, 6 of our 12 reps all quit at once. Then I still have no clue why. The owner came in one day, fired 3 more, knowing we were horribly short-staffed. Now the company had a policy, minimum 8 reps at a time to answer all the calls. The customer service reps worked as that, salespeople, and it was basically a glorified call center in the middle of an industrial workshop. And if you're counting with me, they're down to 3. So they took the other 5 from other departments, 3 from the repair shop, and all but 1 person from shipping. Sat us down on the phones and said pick up the phone and do whatever you can to make them happy. I remember the day I decided to quit. A guy had been strung along for almost 4 months about his refund, to the point where he had conference called his bank and his lawyer. Then all 3 called in and got me, a repair tech who has no clue how the calls or anything works, because we got moved over with no training. They were there to facilitate the refund immediately and would not get off the line. Now I had done refund calls already, and was told to say whatever empty platitude to think of to get them off the phone. But I wasn't about to start dealing with bankers and lawyers, so instead I transferred the call to the building manager and started packing my SH. Day after, my first call was to OSHA. I got the follow-up letter a few weeks after I quit. Over $2,000 in fines that they had 6 weeks to fix the issues. Then there was $5,000 in fines attached to issues they had to fix immediately, and would be fined every day they didn't fix them. The whole place was an SH show, and a workers' comp lawyer's wet dream. This employer sounds like a real hell. Stolen money, falsified reports, firing without any proof, unprofessional decisions, and unapologetic actions of the company owner are real hell for the employees. The story is awesome, and the employees' walk out and going to OSHA seems like completely justified and understandable steps. This is a textbook example of how not to run a business and how to keep your employees and customers safe. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.